Museums and galleries are good at telling us why art matters. They're good because they organize space. Here we are with a very, very simple organization of space, the architecture, the position for installation, spaces that are made, designed, created so that we can look at works of art and they will matter to us. Light, walls, surfaces, materials, the simplest things. Secondly, focus. Within these spaces, there are very, very simple points of focus. What is the exhibition? Is this a display of a collection? Is it historic art? Is it contemporary? Is it thematic? How do we begin to see that focus? And that focus is set not as a certainty. Of course, as Chris says, it's a set of questions. But the questions have to start somewhere. And they start by the invitation of the simplest kind to come and join that point of focus. Thirdly, narrative. At the point of focus, we have narrative. Works of art are here, they're there, they sit alongside each other, and of course they sit with every kind of textile material, from the very first piece on the web to something commented on Twitter, to any kind of interpretive material. Many, many years ago, I remember reading a label in the Museum of Mankind in its old days. In its old days, there was a label of 300 words alongside an artifact of the Inuit, and that 300 words was a description of the nature of Aboriginal spirituality in 300 words. It was impossible. And yet in 300 words, someone had simply set the terms by which one might begin to find a narrative in relation around that particular object. And I remember then, many years back, knowing that this was a very simple challenge of the narrative with which works of art can be understood through curating, through learning, all the programs that exist around them, and increasingly, as we've seen. Indeed, others have commented. Matthew and Chris have said it very clearly. That has changed to be more inclusive, to be more open, to be more diverse. In the narratives, curating isn't just curators. We know over many years there are artists, we can think between sculptors from Henry Moore to Anish Kapoor, who set the terms of the narrative. They set the ways in which their works are able to show that they matter. We can take artists of many generations now. We can see from, I don't know, a Jeremy Deller to a Richard Wentworth to a Chris Ofili to a Susan Hiller to a Mary Kelly, to any of those artists, find the narratives and set their works in ways in which we can follow, if not understand, enjoy, engage. And then to time. The last point is very simple. There isn't a clock, if not, setting aside Christian Markley, there isn't a clock at the time that we watch. A work of art in a museum or gallery is simply there for each of us to choose the time. We choose the time we spend. There may not be, in that wonderful phrase of Virginia Woolf's, the zone of silence. We may not have that around a painting, but we do have the choice of time. Okay, there's a closing time, but up until then, we choose how long we're there. We choose in that space. And in doing that, we know that we find not just ourselves, we find different kinds of social interaction. There was a wonderful piece of research many, many years back in Tate history in which researchers were trying to find out about how people were using the plan. How were they using the spaces in what the taxi drivers call old Tate this was. And they were allowed, if they saw people with the plan and they were particularly confused and turning it upside down, the researchers could stop them and say, "Excuse me, are you lost?" And people would immediately say, no, we're fine. And then they'd see someone else turning the plan upside down and they'd say, "Excuse me, are you lost?" And they said, no, we're fine. And then again, they'd see someone else turning the plan. Well, the plan wasn't good enough. But the point was simple. They weren't lost because they weren't trying to get anywhere. They didn't need to get anywhere. The point about the museum or the gallery was not to get anywhere. It was to have that experience in time in a new way. And as Chris puts it, that dialogue, that interaction between experience and discourse allows every reason why museums and galleries are brilliantly good at telling us why art matters. Thank you.